3 weeks, my kids and I have been homeless, but now here, house to go, forced into living at a hotel that's now here near my kids' school or friends. As I desperately look to find new housing for us, I'm unable to find anything in our community that I can afford and meets my kids' needs. At this point, my only option is to move my kids out of the neighborhood, and I have lived in my entire life there. This would be tragic for my kids. It would mean pulling them from their school and friends, from their support system. But what other option do we have? Obviously, we can't stay living in a motel. I simply can't afford it, and I have already seen the negative impact it has had on my kids. I live and breathe for my kids, and seeing how this experience has impacted them is what hurts me the most. Thank you.
My name is Rafe. I'm a sophomore at Madden High School. For me, constantly moving over the past few years has left me angry and frustrated. I'm very proud of my mom and her ability to provide us for all of us. But no matter how hard she works, it feels like our neighborhood is constantly trying to push us. And the people that look like us outside of the neighborhood. According to Natalie P. Voorhees Center, our community has seen a 4% decrease in the percentage of Black and brown families coupled with a 10% increase in the number of white families. I am afraid that my family will soon just become another statistic. All of this pressure and injustice has had a huge impact on my life, at home, with friends, and at school. Last year, I was never late for class, and in fact, arrived early every day. However, due to all these circumstances, I have been late 20 times to school just this semester. This has caused me to fall way behind in my schoolwork, and now I am failing multiple classes. This isn't me. I'm a good student, but now I am at the point where I'm so angry that I do not even want to go to school anymore.
That ain't right.
How am I supposed to succeed if I don't even know if I'll have a roof over my head this weekend? The story of my mom and I is just one of many across Chicago. When people of color are negatively impacted because of a lack of affordable housing and options for working families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Raphael. Now join me in welcoming Lisette Castillo from Organized Communities Against Deportations.
Good afternoon, my name is Lisette Castillo and I'm a member of Organized Communities Against Deportations. Aníbal Fuentes Aguilar was going to give testimony for our organization. Unfortunately, he had a family commitment that he cannot get away from. But I do have his testimony and I'm going to read it as is in his own words. Hi, my name is Aníbal Fuentes Aguilar. I am a member of Organized Communities Against Deportations, an organization made up of immigrant youth and adults. In our experience fighting against deportations, we've seen that ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, or AMIGA, uses tactics that are inadequate and that make immigrants feel unsafe. On December 13, 2013, ICE agents dressed as police showed up at our door, looking for someone else. When they showed me the picture of the person, I told them that I did not know him. After this, they asked me for my ID and entered my apartment without my consent. Once inside with their guns out and aiming everywhere, they began to search my home. My wife and my 6-month-old son were the only other people there. A check showed that I had a prior deportation on the record, so that same day I was handcuffed in front of my family and put under arrest. Thanks to the word and support of the community, I was able to leave detention in 1 week, and currently I have to stay until November of this year. My story is only one of many. The reality is that immigrants and their families live in constant fear of deportation, of the threat of getting separated from the family and the community every single time that they go out to work, to school, or even for a walk. This is why today we want to hear from the candidates themselves what the vision for the city of Chicago is, and what they would do as mayor to ensure that immigrants feel safe in their communities, and that the city of Chicago will be a city that is a sanctuary for all. Thank you.
Give it up for Charles Alexander with the Black Youth Project 100.
Under the Chicago decriminalization ordinance, low-level possession of marijuana leads to a ticket and not an arrest. On a Tuesday morning, I get a call from my mother informing me that my little brother had been arrested the night prior. Knowing my brother smokes marijuana, I knew it was highly likely that he would have been arrested for possession. I never once asked myself why my little brother was not ticketed for low-level possession, because arrest is expected. Arrest is expected. According to the study released last year by Roosevelt University, only 7% of the misdemeanor marijuana violations recorded by Chicago police in 2013 resulted in a ticket. The offender was arrested in the other 93% of violations. Why was he arrested? Why did he have to face a judge and potentially add a footnote to a non-existent criminal record? If convicted, would judge ask why he wasn't ticketed instead of arrested? No. Would they empathize with a story of kids just being kids? No. This story is all too familiar to too many people in my community of Roseland and Pullman. Law enforcement arresting when they should be ticketing contributes to more people in jail, unemployment, and broken family structure. This is the reason why I work with BYP 100. It's stories like this one that BYP 100 seeks to end. We have to look deeper at identifying community resources and not just criminalizing our black communities. The decriminalization of nonviolent, low-level offenses, including decriminalizing marijuana, is a step in the decriminalization of black bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Let's hear it from Darius Lightfoot from Fearless Leading by the Youth.
Good evening. My name is Darius Lightfoot, and I'm with a youth organization that goes by the name of FLY, Fearless Leading by the Youth. We hear many people talking or practicing restorative justice. Restorative justice is an idea of justice that emphasizes restorative justice is an idea of justice that emphasizes the harm that is caused by criminal behavior. It addresses the harm through a cooperative effort. All right, cool. It addresses this harm through a cooperative effort. Is restorative justice the best alternative to our current justice system? Does restorative justice reduce violence? Does it resolve conflicts within neighborhoods and communities? I'm here to tell you yes. Yes, it does reduce violence. Yes, it does resolve conflict. And yes, this is the perfect alternative to our current justice system. The Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center realizes that restorative justice is a better alternative, and they actually started to put restorative justice in courtrooms. How do we know this works? In the late 90s, the JTDC, also known as the Audi Home, held almost 850 youth in a facility that capacity was only 495, the biggest in the United States. Since then, the numbers have lowered to an astounding 250 youth. This is the result of what restorative justice can do, not just for the juvenile system, but the adult system as well. I'm living proof and also a product of restorative justice. I know because I have been through both systems, the youth and also the adult system. Every day I was told by everybody that I wasn't going to be anything but a hoodlum, gangbanger, animal, etc. I heard it so much that I started to believe it. And soon enough, I started to live it. I'm not standing up here today as an animal or a gangbanger. Granted, I could be a hoodlum at sometimes. But I'm up here today representing the youth-led organization that I co-founded, and I'm also representing every young person with a similar background as I. I didn't get here by myself. I didn't get here by my... Damn. Okay. I didn't get here by myself, and it also didn't happen overnight. I had support. I had mentors. I had people guiding me in the right direction. I had opportunities to utilize services, but most of all, I had people in my own community who believed in me and actually showed it. This is a result of what restorative justice can do and is doing to our young people in our communities. Many young people have the same story as me. We need to help them get the same results that I have. Thank you.
And for our final youth testimony, give it up for Ophelia Franklin from South Dakota.
Hello, my name is Ophelia Franklin. I'm a senior in high school in the southwest side of Chicago. A couple years ago, a group of young black students began fighting outside of school. Police were outside and they witnessed this and mistaken this for being a serious fight. And they went in pursuit to arrest these young black students. After being handcuffed, the students repeatedly told the police officers that they were just playing. But the police officers refused to listen and still arrested these young black students and said that they were going to teach them a lesson. The young black students got arrested that day, and the following day, afterwards, the next day, when they got back to school, on top of being arrested, they were suspended for a week, making it hard for these students to get back on track for graduation and bring up their grades. This is what we call school to prison pipeline. In the year 2011 to 2012, the same year that those students got arrested, there were more than 4,000 arrests of CPS students, which amounts to 24 students being arrested per day. That is not right. Almost 1/4 of the arrested students were under the age of 14. 96% of the arrests were of black and or Latino students. I feel like this is wrong, and I feel that the mayor should put an end to zero tolerance policies and also put an end to school to prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for sharing your stories. Now we will hear from the candidates one by one. And I want to take a moment, if you have a cell phone, be sure to put it on silent. And we'd also like to remind everyone to please hold any applause until after the candidate is done with his closing statement.
Let's invite our first candidate, William Doc Walls. Again, please hold your applause until the end. Mr. Walls, thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
In a short 1-minute response, please tell us why you are running for mayor.
Because I'm without equivocation the most qualified candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago. I'm one candidate who will unify the city by promoting cultural diversity and sensitivity amongst people of all ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, and religious persuasion, all sexual orientations, all physical and mental disabilities with limitations, because I understand that none of us is any better than the rest of us. I'll keep Chicago's promise. And that's a commitment to public safety, public education, affordable housing, senior care, full employment, balanced economic development, equal access for the disabled, and all else fails, charity.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walls. And Mr. Walls, we just heard testimony from our youth focused around the 4 pillars. Again, those 4 pillars are criminalization of young people of color, education, youth investment, racial inequity. In the next 5 minutes, please respond to these 4 pillars and what you would do if you were mayor.
First thing we have to do is spend more money on education, rehabilitation, and skill development, and a whole lot less money on incarceration. Chicago has an over incarceration problem, particularly as it relates to African American youth and Latino youth. If you look at Cook County Jail and go through it cell by cell, most people wonder, where's the jail for white people? It is disproportionately black and brown at Cook County Jail. We have to change that. Part of it starts with over-aggressive policing in the city of Chicago. We have a lot of abusive, trigger-happy police who don't understand that they're not judge, jury, and execution, and that their responsibility is to apprehend someone who's doing something wrong, take them into custody, and then present them to the system so that they can be judged fairly. You know, Chicago is a great place, but there are 2 cities in Chicago. There's a world-class Chicago and there's an underclass Chicago. That world-class Chicago is beautiful, it's safe, it's tourist-friendly, it's robust, it's full of resources and unlimited opportunity for the privileged few. That's the Chicago that the mayor and the media love to brag about and showcase in the magazine. And then there's that underclass Chicago. Decaying neighborhoods, unsafe streets, drivers dodging potholes, and school children dodging bullets. Inferior city services. As I said, abusive, trigger-happy police. No jobs, no schools, parks, no economic development. 97% of young black men between the ages of 18 and 25 are totally disconnected and unemployed. They're not welcome to parks, to schools, to libraries, or any other institutions in Chicago. You have a disparity in terms of employment in Chicago. White unemployment is 3%. African American unemployment is 30%. 44% of blacks live below the poverty line. So they start at a disadvantage. And a lot of that is systematic because of the things that the city of Chicago does. The creation of vacant lots. When you go to the south and west side of the city of Chicago, you'll find 13,500 vacant lots because of a program called Fast Track Demolition of Structures that Ron Emanuel has put in place and continues as just a grinding wheel, just eliminating pieces of property that are valuable. But in the white communities on the north, northwest, southwest side, they have a different philosophy. And that philosophy is that property goes into foreclosure or somehow becomes vacant. They work with financial institutions and the community to stabilize and save those properties. So vacant lots don't generate any revenue, but you still have to provide services in those areas. So it puts an unusual burden on the community. So we have several programs. We certainly want to create jobs. We have 2 great jobs initiatives. One is Grocers, community owned and operated. And we'll use TIP funds, $600 million in TIP funds, money that's already available for spending at the discretion of the mayor, to eliminate the food deserts in Chicago. 22 communities in Chicago are food deserts. No fresh produce, fresh meats, no fresh dairy, no places for people to work. So we'll create 60 small and medium-sized stores and 20 big box stores, so there's a store every 1.4 miles in Chicago. Overall, that'll create 50,000 jobs in Chicago. And next, you have a program to seed small businesses. You know, I got started working at an early age in small businesses right there in my business community, within walking distance, within walking distance from home. So we're going to see that happen again, so some of you have the opportunity to work in your community. We're going to identify 1,000 small and medium-sized businesses that are industry and geographically diverse all over the city and give them a grant, not a loan, but a grant of $1 million for jobs creation. Some of those would be production jobs, some of them would be bookkeepers, accountants, trainees, things that might interest you.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Walls. We have one follow-up question for you that you will have 1 minute to respond. Based on the issues we presented, which one do you think you could make most of an impact on if you were elected mayor?
I think education is most important to me as it relates to young people. We have to establish an educational system that takes into account the individual needs of each student. It's not one size fits all because we're all different. So the thing that we want to do is make certain that we evaluate each child at pre-K and other levels as we go on to find out what their needs will be to make certain that they have every opportunity to get from pre-K through 12th grade. I want drop. 71% of young black men drop out or are kicked out. And oftentimes it's because they're forced to go to school across gang lines. We want to change that culture in Chicago. We want to make Chicago a place where everybody feels as though they have a place. Education, we want to make sure we have reading, writing, math, and science, obviously. But we also want to teach the humanities, the arts. We want to teach English as a second language. We want to teach multiple foreign languages in Chicago. We want to make certain that our children have recess because there's no talking in school. There has to be a time for children to get to know one another, figure out who they are. We also want to make certain that they have access to the humanities, arts, that they have access to vocational training, and the kinds of things that will enable them to earn a living even if they decide they don't want to go to college.
Thank you, Mr. Walls. And finally, you'll now have 2 minutes to summarize your youth agenda for the city of Chicago.
My youth agenda for the city of Chicago is, first of all, we have to respect youth, and that starts with the government itself, engaging youth and involving youth. We want to tear down that wall that separates cops from communities. You know, we want to get rid of that blue coat of silence, but we also want to get rid of that no snitch policy. I want to make it such that if a young person says, I want to be a police officer, they're admired by their peers and not looked down upon and look like, you know, what do you think? We want to make certain that young people have summer jobs, have jobs during the year because a lot of parents are struggling just to make it. And we live in a very materialistic society. So I want to make certain that we at least provide avenues for people to have those things that they want, things that their friends have, and those kind of things. We obviously want peer support. So, for example, if someone new comes into a school, we want to match them up with someone who kind of fits their profile. If they speak Spanish, we want somebody that speaks Spanish to kind of help them through the process and indoctrination of the first few days of school, because it's those first few days that matter to you and determine what your impression of your school is going to be. We want technology available to everybody. Philadelphia has a Wi-Fi net all across the entire city, so you're online anytime you want to be online, free of charge. We want to make sure that the city of Chicago has a similar program. I know you guys love your gadgets and love your phone, and you need Wi-Fi wherever you go. So we want to make sure that you can stay connected with your family and friends on an ongoing basis. We want to make certain that we get rid of those red light cameras, blue light cameras, and speed zone cameras, so when you start driving, we're not robbing you every time we make a mistake and run through, or just cross the line, because we know you're not going to run through the line. So we want to make sure that we have a city that works together.
Mr. Walls.
Thank you.
Let's invite our second candidate, Robert Bob Floretti. Again, please hold your applause until the end.
Mr. Floretti.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferretti, thank you for coming. And a short 1-minute response. Please tell us why you are running for mayor.
Sure. I'm running for mayor because the city is headed in the wrong direction. I served 2 different terms, one under the former Mayor Daley and one under this mayor. You know, I'm seeing what I'm seeing in this election especially is that we're moving in the wrong direction. I love our city, and I know we can do better. You know, Chicago needs a mayor that looks out for all the people in this city, not just the special interests or the few, but everybody. And I say that because whether it's whatever issue affects us, we need to be making sure that we have a mayor that will represent us. And I grew up in the south side of our city. I grew up in Roseland. I had my values from my immigrant father, an Italian-American, and my Polish-American mother. Now, at the same time, I was a civil rights lawyer here in this city, and as an alderman, I pushed a progressive vision of what progressive vision on the city council. As a civil rights lawyer, I work to right the wrongs in our justice system. But as a alderman, I have fought to make sure that all families are served, not just those at the top. And it's about time to end this right now, so I'll stop right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni. The youth shared testimony at the top of the program focused around 4 pillars. Again, those 4 pillars are criminalization of young people of color, education, youth investment, and racial inequity. In the next 5 minutes, please respond to these 4 pillars and what you would do if you were the mayor.
Fine. Oh, do I say it right out?
Yes.
As I go through it? Let me just take a look at it all because I don't want to miss one of them and make sure what we need to do. First of all, is the youth investment and it's the criminalizing our youth. Well, let's be realistic on what's happening out here. We've got an overabundance of laws, regulations, who we serve, what we serve. We become a society that just bases everything on regulations and rules. You know, from our as I look through the testimonials on youth investment, you know, what can we do? Housing, it's unacceptable on what I see throughout this city. When I became alderman in the most diverse ward in this city, more schools than any other ward, more housing CHA units than any other ward, more parks, more nursing homes. And it was a microcosm of the city, but there was bad housing. And you know what I did? I went through each and every one of them, and I said I'm willing to fight for the people in those houses to make sure that they have a better approach. And we were successful. You know, we cleaned up our housing in the second ward. That's why I'm going to do the same thing when I'm the mayor of the city. You know, when we talk about the items that, and I'm going to just go through it really quick. There is well, let's just forget all this. Let's just talk honestly. What is driving this election? It's inequality. Inequality is the basic problem that we have here in this city. The rich are getting richer, and everyone else is left behind. I mean, if you're happy with the way things are going in this city, then welcome to the 1% and vote for Ron Emanuel. You know? And if not, then I'm going to say vote for me. Because what are the major issues? We can define them, and we use the 4 pillars, but really, it boils down to crime, education, economic development. You know, crime isn't solved by making more laws out there. Crime is solved by finding jobs in our communities. Crime is solved by making sure that people have a chance to get a job. You know, we talk about the check off on the box. I've been a big proponent for not just for years as a civil rights lawyer that we don't have the box on there. And I fought to make sure that it would be there. But at the same time, if you're an employer, yeah, it gets you in the door, but they then sometimes say, oh, what were you doing between 1997 and 2003? You know? That's why, and today I had a career job fair for veterans, but I had people that were ex-offenders there to make sure that we can hire them at good paying jobs. We had 50 vendors today. I don't know what the other candidates were doing today, but I made sure that we had that as I always say, job fairs twice a year. And when we look at the crime issue in our streets, if we don't have good jobs, people, we can see what happens. In the last 2 years, I hired between 16 and 22-year-olds. I found a state grant. I've had 45 and 45 kids 1 year, 35 kids the next year. And they worked hard at $9 an hour during the summer. And I put them to work in doing things in my office, doing things at the City Hall. I brought them to the Shed Aquarium, museum, field museum, police academies, fire academy, and also down at City Hall. Some of them became mentors at the Shed Aquarium because of that experience. And so they got engaged. Some of them are being mentored right now by police officers at the police academy. Income inequality is the driving force behind this election. Education, it's the same thing. If you don't believe it, you can look at the differences between what happens on the Gold Coast and the schools there and what happens in our neighborhoods. When the mayor closed 50 schools, it was utter contempt for our neighborhoods. It wasn't just turning his back on it. It was utter contempt. At the same time, when we look at jobs and economic opportunities, I'm pushing for $15 an hour. Not this phony $13 an hour that doesn't take effect and full effect until a couple of weeks before the next mayoral election. I think, when this is what, if we're going, we need a healthy, robust economy that will bring people together, that can give jobs for everyone, and especially everyone in this room. And I will tell you one last thing. In 2011, I had a proposal to take $25 million out of the TIF funds that would have put 3 times the amount of young people to work than what this mayor's commercial is talking about. We had a 3-hour hearing in the City Hall on the Finance Committee. And guess what happened? It's still pending there. We can put people to work if we want to, but this administration doesn't want to. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Girardi. We have one follow-up question for you that you will have 1 minute to respond. Based on the issues we presented, which one do you think you can make most of an impact on if you were elected mayor?
Well, I think, as I just said, the income inequality affects it all. And how do we have, people talk about restorative justice in this election. I don't know where they've been. It's the first time they probably have ever heard the term. I've utilized it up and down. I've utilized it in our schools, up along King Drive, and we make it happen. At the same time, when we look about issues that affect, I think on all of them, decriminalization of marijuana, straight across the board. Finding money and resources for our neighborhood schools, I will find it. And at the same time, I will fight to bring jobs into our communities and put young people to work during the summer that want a job.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Fiorelli will now have 2 minutes to summarize your youth-specific agenda for the city of Chicago.
Well, I think, like I said, it's we're dealing with certain issues that affect everybody. Crime, education, the physical health of this city. How do we get there? We can find jobs if we wanted to. Like I said, we had a $25 million TIF resolution that would have taken money out of the TIFs and put everybody to work. Education, we can find the resources, but what we really need to do is to make sure that there are trades and vocation schools, courses back in the high schools, all across, because I think people need to learn and use their hands, because it gives them an option. Because right now, this administration is so focused that everybody has to go to our city colleges. Everybody has to go to colleges. The mayor keeps talking about, well, then we're not going to burden the folks. Well, the truth of the matter is, not everybody wants to go to college, but the opportunity should be there. But we should have trades and vocation school courses so people can learn and have the opportunity to get a good job now if they want to. And I think that we can provide that leadership that people can have jobs, that we can have good housing in our neighborhoods, that we can have, my vision of Chicago, let me just say it's in closing, is safe streets and strong neighborhoods. We get there because I believe people should be able to walk to their parks safely, walk to the store, walk to where they want to work. And I do believe that if all of us are working together, we can have one vision, one goal, one Chicago. Thank you.
I'm not sure if he is here yet. Give me a signal. Is he? Sorry, one moment. Well, while we are waiting for him, I want to make sure that the youth are still empowered. Yeah. How's that chance?
When I say youth, you say power. Youth, power. Youth, power. Youth, power.
All right. And how many people are registered to vote? Let's get some applause. Let's get some hands up here. Now let's hear your hands. It doesn't matter if you're registered, but who's of age to vote in the city of Chicago? Raise your hand. That's mostly everyone here. So if you are not registered yet, you can get registered at any of the early polling places. You can find that at chicagoelections.com. You can register to vote and vote the same day at these early election sites. So, I don't want to call anyone out, but who's not registered to vote? Alright, that's alright. That's okay. You can still do it. Alright? Like, make sure the friends who are next to the people who aren't registered to vote, make sure you help them out, go with them, support them in getting registered to vote for the candidate that you think should be mayor. Alright. Got one more candidate. See if he's ready, if he's here yet. I think you still might be just here still waiting. Bear with us one moment.
Excuse me, may I have your attention? Like we said in the beginning, please, there will be live tweeting, there will be tweeting.
You can join the conversation in the live tweeting. You can use the hashtags, hashtag Youth Speaks and hashtag Young Shy Voters. You can let your opinions be known there. All right, I think our candidate is here. So let's welcome out Jesus Garcia.
Again, please hold your applause to them.
All right, Mr. Garcia will be joining us on stage.
And a short 1-minute response, please tell us why you are running for mayor.
I'm running for mayor to break the status quo in the city of Chicago. Chicago is a city that works for a select few. It needs to work for the neighborhoods of Chicago, for its people, to improve schools, to make neighborhoods safer, and to provide opportunities and economic recovery in every neighborhood in Chicago, especially those that have been historically disinvested in the greatest.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Now, the youth shared testimony at the beginning of our program, and it focused around 4 pillars. And again, those 4 pillars are criminalization of young people of color, education, youth investment, and racial inequity. In the next 5 minutes, please respond to these 4 pillars and what you would do if you were the mayor.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about each one of them. Was first decriminalization?
Criminalization of young people of color.
Very well. My history, how many minutes?
5 minutes.
For all 4 areas?
Yeah, you gotta
Okay, very well. Then I will have to use my notes. One is, I have worked for a long time to
end the school to prison pipeline, including over the past 4 years at Cook County government, to do away with zero tolerance policies in Chicago public schools. I work with coalition of groups that have worked with that, made some headway. I worked at Cook County to reduce the jail population at Cook County Jail. And over the past 2 years, we've reduced it successfully from 10,000 to 8,600. It's still too many. Cook County is now in my district. We continue to work at it with President Tony Preckwinkle, who has led the charge. And I'm happy to say today the governor of Illinois, who is not an ally of mine, announced that they are looking at similar strategies to reduce Illinois' jail population at the Illinois Department of Corrections. While I'm skeptical, I welcome the idea and hope to be working closely with those there. I have been a practitioner of restorative justice for almost 9 years to date. I've worked with Community Justice for Youth Initiative to spread the practice. Happy to say that Cook County has invested $500,000. I spoke with President Tony Preckwinkle, worked with a coalition of groups to make that a reality. But also, as the former chairman of the Woods Fund of Chicago, we have invested $250,000 in an initiative with the Abner School of Psychology, Albany Park Neighborhood Council, to also spread the practice throughout the city of Chicago and Cook County through a grant-making program. I have another initiative that I announced over the past 3 weeks, and that is my safety plan for Chicago neighborhoods. One, it includes the spread of restorative justice practices throughout the city. 2, increase and target jobs for youth, especially in communities that have the highest levels of violence. 3, engage in community policing. Hire 1,000 new police officers to ensure that we change the patterns of engaging communities to build trust, to build mutual respect, particularly in the aftermath of Ferguson and New York. It is desperately needed, not only in Chicago, but in other places. It's been instituted in other places, and police departments that had the worst reputation for police brutality and corruption have embraced this and succeeded. Cities like LA, which had that reputation. In the area of education, I fought for and helped develop the Little Village Lawndale High School complex in the Little Village community, demonstrating you can have excellent schools in even poor communities in Chicago. It serves Latino youth and African American youth from South and North Lawndale. Very proud of that. We also created a community schools model on the southwest side, which has taken off and provides opportunities for students, for parents, for community residents at large, and reduces the violence in the Little Village community. One of the other initiatives that we invested in while I was director of the nonprofit organization. In terms of youth investment, one of the ignored areas of youth need is the fact that about 22,000 youth in Chicago high schools face a vulnerable housing situation due to conditions of domestic violence, of violence against LGBTQ students, by their parents, by others, by bullying, etc., and that needs to be addressed. Approximately 22,000 people or students in that situation. Lastly, in terms of racial equity, I was one of the founders of the United Congress of Community and Religious Organizations to address this issue, to build greater unity among people of color, particularly African Americans, Latinos, and Asians in Chicago, and to continue to fight for policies that will dismantle structural racism in our society at all levels, but also empower youth to take advantage of opportunities in their lives. Essentially, my beginning as an activist in what we call the struggle, what we've come to call progressive political struggle in the electoral arena, is rooted in action. I first participated as a high school student in shutting down a theater in my community, and my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Garcia. We have one final question for you that you will have 1 minute to respond. Based on the issues we presented, which one do you think you could make most of an impact on if you were elected mayor?
I think the question of building greater opportunities for young people by investing in neighborhoods to ensure that there are good schools in every neighborhood in Chicago, that high schools become more robust in offering more courses like advanced placement courses, language courses, enrichment courses like music and art is very, very important so that students and their parents aren't constantly looking for the selective enrollment schools, having to look for charter schools as an alternative, which can be misleading. I don't support the expansion of charter schools in Chicago. Would be one of the greatest priorities because if young people don't have access to those things, it determines whether they go on to colleges or universities and what kinds of careers are within their reach or not within their reach.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And finally, we'll now have 2 minutes to summarize your youth-specific agenda for the city of Chicago.
One of the most important experiences that I had with young people during this campaign, and of course that isn't it doesn't certainly capture my interaction with young people, was sitting in a peace circle with over 40 young people, ages from 9 to about 30 years of age, where they asked me, will your administration, if you're elected mayor, embrace young people, sit young people at decision-making tables as you move forward? Do you commit to end ageism and the exclusion of young people when policies are created by the city of Chicago? And I said, absolutely. You've raised my awareness. You have shared with me the importance of young people being not symbols, being not tokens, but real participants. I commit to fostering a close relationship involving young people in the design of summer youth employment programs, after-school employment programs, input about how we can improve high schools and high school curriculum and make high school studies more relevant to young people. I will also consult with young people about what goes on in the neighborhoods as it relates to relationships with the police department, how relationships can be improved, how we continue to reduce profiling, how we continue to focus on solving serious crime problems in the community, stop the profiling, stop harassment, engage in a more robust discussion about what it means to create real community. Part of that is problem solving, part of that is embracing all stakeholders in the community, not creating quotas of contact cards, not creating quotas of arrests, but really asking the fundamental question, what creates better community, healthier communities, and especially communities where you can have and will have mutual respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the candidates who presented this evening. Now that we've heard what the candidates have to say, I'd like to welcome
All right, well, now that we've heard from all the candidates, again, let's make sure that all our voters and our soon-to-be voters are energized.
When I say youth, you say power. Youth. Power. Youth. Power. Youth. Power. Youth. Power. I'd like one for the yes to join us up on stage for call to action.
Hello? Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Juan Padilla, and I'm from Belmont Cragen, and I'm a youth leader with Communities United. Today we heard about all the issues that affect young people. We heard about criminalization, education, resources, and racial inequity. Today, we also heard about how young people have been ignored in this election. If you believe our vote will count, let me hear a Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Well, I got another question for everyone. If you commit to bringing 10 people out to the polls, let me hear oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, repeat after me. I believe our votes will count. I believe our votes will count. I believe our votes will count. Turn up! I believe our votes will count. 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 Thank you everyone for being here today. This is really meaningful. And I just want to end with one more chant. When I say people, you say power. People! 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 Thank you.
Now, you can see the entire video of this forum online. If you go to communitiesunited.org, you can find the link to the live stream and the video. Please refer to your program for additional information. And again, you don't have to wait for February 24th to cast your ballot. Like I said earlier, there are 51 early voting centers in Chicago where you can register to vote and cast your ballot on the same day. Visit ChicagoElections.com for more information. Now, I want to thank the Chicago History Museum for hosting us and street level youth leader. We also want to thank the candidates for joining us, William Walls, Bobby Reddy, and Jesus Garcia.
And most of all, we want to thank all of you for coming, and all the foreign co-sponsors who made this forum possible.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.